A hurricane tore through Lincoln Financial Field, and we're not talking about the weather.
Plus, the Owls are looking to secure their first conference win in a Thursday night matchup in Oklahoma.
I'm Eva Cheeseman reporting from the Temple Sports Complex. I'll introduce you to the lacrosse team's newest coaching hire, who is poised to improve the defense in the upcoming season.
I'm Jackson Batchler. With the release of the men's and women's basketball schedules over the weekend, we'll highlight how the changes to the AAC will affect Temple's play. OwlSports Update is live, and it starts right now.
Hello and welcome to OwlSports Update. I'm Natalie Koranda, he's Paddy Heckard, and we have a loaded show today.
Temple football ended last week with a loss against Miami, but can follow that up with a win just 5 days later. The Owls face the Golden Hurricane in a weekday matchup in Oklahoma for their first conference game of the season. Tulsa has always been a tough opponent for Temple in recent years. Since 2017, the Owls are 2-2 against the Golden Hurricane and have lost the last two matchups against Tulsa in 2021 and 2022. Temple got off to a hot start in last season's matchup against Tulsa, scoring 10 points in the first quarter. Tulsa followed that up with 24 unanswered points, leading to a 27-16 loss. So Temple is familiar with this team, and they know the season is really starting over now that the conference play has started.
We're getting ready for conference play, so we have to flush that game and get ourselves ready to win. Get ourselves in position to try to win a conference championship, an American Conference Championship. And those guys. Well, it's the same challenge that Tulsa has. They're coming on a short week as well, so the challenge is to make sure that we don't make it an excuse. Not to make it an issue. And our players have done a great job of just focusing in on the things that we need to prepare. And when we see Tulsa, but also to kind of fix some of the things that we had to repair from the Miami game. So yeah, it's just it's the same for same issue that Tulsa is facing, and neither team could use that as an excuse.
Prediction time. Tulsa has had an odd schedule going into conference play. They play two nationally ranked teams and two teams that are on nobody's radar. With that being said, going into conference play, it is hard to determine where this team really stands. Temple is in a very similar boat. They had two challenging matchups against Power 5 schools, and they weren't competitive. So based off of last year's matchup and the start of this season, I believe it'll be a competitive game, and I have Temple coming out on top by 3. Drayton said that since both teams have a short practice week, that cannot be an excuse for a potential loss.
At the desk with us today is Inside the Nest Meg Doyle talking Tulsa. Hey, Meg.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
As I mentioned earlier, it is hard to read where this team stand. This should be a competitive game, but what hurdles could both teams possibly face?
You're absolutely right. This is going to be a competitive game because, like you mentioned, both Tulsa and Temple have faced ranked teams so far, so it's definitely going to be a tough matchup for the two. I'm going to start with Temple. Right now, they're lacking in a run game. They're averaging 107.5 rushing yards, which simply is not enough. On the other hand, Tulsa's second-string quarterback, Cardell Williams, who's been starting the last 3 games, Stan mentioned on Monday that he can run the ball, and that is something we have not consistently seen from E.J. Warner, so I think that's going to balance out. Now, on the other hand, the passing defense for Tulsa is very weak. Against Oklahoma and Washington, they allowed over 450 passing yards for each. Now, they were both ranked teams, so it was a little tougher, but it still is going to be a tough matchup for these two.
So on Monday, Coach Drayton said that we need to flush that Miami game. And I know we are not that far into the season, only 4 games in, and conference play hasn't started. But what major changes do you need to see from Temple in order to see them in the mix for a top spot in the AAC?
I think a top spot is possible, but they do need to make some changes. I already mentioned the lack of a run game, and you can't have a passing game if there's no run game. their plays become too predictable. The opposing team, they're just going to send coverage into the back because they know that pass is coming. So they really need to step up so the passing game can improve as well as the run game. That being said, there's also new teams in the mix for the AAC, such as UTSA and UAB. So we don't exactly know how Temple's going to match up against those.
Miami had scored over 35 points in each of its first 3 games before Temple. Did Temple really have any chance at all? What do you think?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you, Natalie. I don't think they did. And I honestly don't think anybody really thought they did, including Stan. At the presser on Monday, he mentioned how Miami's recruiting is just elevated. It's different. Miami players, they're stronger, they're faster, they're bigger. I mean, they're 20 ranked. So I don't think it comes to a surprise that Temple had a tough loss, both offensively and defensively. They just could not keep up, especially on defense. They were on the field for the majority of the time because the offense couldn't make any plays really happen. So the defense got tired, and Miami ended up scoring on all but 3 drives. So I really don't think that comes as a huge surprise.
Temple was missing 3 big players against Miami: Yvonne Rigby, Jalen McMurray, and Dante Wright. How noticeable were these players' absence in last weekend's game? You
know, it was very noticeable. As you mentioned, these are key players and guys who all perform well consistently. Starting with Yvonne Rigby, he has season-high 14 tackles against Akron. Jalen McMurray was named weekly captain against Akron and Norfolk State, and Dante Wright has 185 receiving yards for this season. And Stan has also talked about how Dante Wright is a leader on and off the field. So I'm excited to hopefully see them play against Tulsa because I think they're going to be key to bring home the win.
Well, Meg, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. You can catch Meg back on Inside the Nest next Tuesday at noon to discuss, hopefully, a positive outcome to Temple's first conference matchup.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Now let's go a bit back in time to last Saturday. Here's that loss that Meg was talking about versus Miami. Here in the first, Henry Parrish Jr. breaks through Temple's D-line for 17 yards and a first down. On the next play, Tyler Van Dyke drops back in the pocket and finds Xavier Restrepo for the touchdown, 7-0 Miami. Temple unable to get anything going, but Miami can. Colby Young makes a great catch and dives into the end zone for a 2-score lead. Temple now with the ball. E.J. Warner evades the pressure in the pocket to find Ahmad Anderson Jr. for the first down. On the same drive, Warner is able to throw while he's hit and gets it to Reese Clark for 6. 24-7 Miami. The Hurricanes didn't slow down in the second half. Henry Parrish Jr. rushes it in from the 3 to extend the lead to 24. Now Temple back on offense. Warner rolls out of the pocket but can't find a receiver and gets picked off by Takori Couch at the 40. Miami found the end zone one more time this game with another touchdown pass to Xavier Restrepo. Final score, 41-7, Miami.
It was the first matchup against the Hurricanes since 2005. We had multiple crews at the game on Saturday, and we all saw the true difference between a top 20 team and where Temple stands today. OwlSports Update's Jackson Batchler explains.
The weather was just about as rough on Saturday afternoon as the game itself. Temple's 34-point loss to Miami showed one thing. It showed just how far the Owls are from competing against the top teams in the nation.
You know, they don't like losing. They don't like losing. This doesn't feel good for anybody in our program, and this is not our standard that we're trying to set. So we have to flush it. It's necessary.
The Owls were outmatched on both sides of the ball. They rushed for only 11 yards, and E.J. Warner threw multiple interceptions for the second time this season.
But still no excuse at the end of the day for my play and our pass game. No matter how many guys are out there, I gotta find ways to make plays and help this team move the ball down the field.
There is plenty to clean up on the defensive side of the ball. The Owls gave up 543 yards, and in 2 games against Power 5 schools this season, Temple has allowed 77 points.
Each week, you got to move on. Just speeding up the process. Got to go home, watch the tape, like right now, and make the corrections as soon as possible because we have a short week. We play Thursday, and we can't go out there on a short week making the same mistakes we made this week. So there's no excuse. We got to get it done.
Temple did have some promising moments. A touchdown by Reese Clark, and Ahmad Anderson Jr. caught 10 balls for 117 yards. Perhaps something the Owls can work off of heading into conference play. Reporting from Lincoln Financial Field, I'm Jackson Batchler, OwlSports Update.
Time for our first break, but when we return, we'll take a look at men's soccer with Eva Cheeseman live from the sports complex.
And field hockey is already getting deep into conference play. OwlSports Update will be back in 90 seconds.
Welcome back to OwlSports Update. Temple men's soccer faced a new member of the American Athletic Conference for the first time last weekend. Temple played UAB on Saturday night, and it looked like an even matchup from the start. Both teams came into the game with matching records. Temple and UAB both coming into this game looking for that first win of the season. Early in the first half, Temple is unable to close off the UAB attack. Forward Humphrey Doe gets the ball, cuts inside to beat the Temple defender, and then unleashes a rocket into the back of the net to make it 1-0 UAB. The Blazers don't stop there. Almost a minute after the first goal, it finds another. No Garcia flicks the ball up to Humphrey Doe, who heads the ball in for his second goal of the game. Temple is able to get one goal back this half and has another chance from a corner. Leighton Imparato makes the cross, and it goes right in. Temple ties the game at 2, and it stays that way until the end. The Owls remain winless this season. Final score, 2-2.
That tie was a small step in the right direction for a team that's really struggled. 0-4-3 in their last 7 games. OwlSports Update's Kayla Levine takes a look.
It hasn't been an easy ride for the men's soccer team. The team is 7 games into their season and have yet to take home a win. On the defensive side, overall, the Owls have allowed 13 goals in the first half this season, with 6 coming in the first 15 minutes.
In the college game, it's super tight, it's super fast in the first 10-15 minutes of the game, and so that just comes down to us having to communicate more, having to be on the same page, and having to learn each other and learn our role on the field as a team.
The struggles might not be a huge surprise for a team that's rebuilding. This is Coach Green's first season as head coach.
Just keeping the guys to understand it's a process, to be patient without being complacent. I think that's the messaging we've been given, is that keep pushing. We've improved every step of the way except maybe the St. John's game, and just believing in the growth we're having.
And the team saw some of that in their latest game, a tie versus UAB. It was Temple's first conference point of the season.
No matter the downs that we get, there's always going to be ups. And that's something that you have to constantly remind yourself. It's something that you can't neglect. And no matter how much losses that you get, downfalls, you got to stay resilient and persevere.
But it won't get much easier. The Owls are on the road Friday to take on Charlotte, a team that's 4-1-1 this season. From Temple Sports Complex, I'm Kayla Levine, OwlSports Update.
The team will travel to North Carolina to play Charlotte on Friday, and this one won't be easy. The 49ers are 4-1-1 on the year.
Temple field hockey saw the end of its 4-game winning streak this past weekend after a 1-0 loss to Old Dominion. The Monarchs took the lead in the second period thanks to sophomore attacker Sancy Mulkenbauer. It was a slow day for the Temple offense, only recording 1 shot the entire game. The team is now 6-3 on the season and 1-1 in the Big East Conference.
And it's not going to get any easier for the Owls. Temple will take on Liberty Friday at Howarth Field. Liberty is currently on a 4-game winning streak, which puts them at the top of the Big East. Not to mention their 9th-ranked team in the country. Game time is at 1 p.m.
It's now time for our second break of the show. When we get back, we'll hear about Lacrosse's preparation for the spring season with a new coach.
Plus, hoop schedules are out. We'll take a look on the other side. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Temple Women's Lacrosse welcomed a new member to the team's coaching staff this offseason. OwlSports Update's Eva Cheeseman is live at the sports complex with more. Hey, Eva.
Thanks, guys. This past Friday, I had the chance to witness the new assistant coach in action here on Broad for the first time. In a game against Villanova, the Owls brought peculiar coaching methods to the game. The women's lacrosse team is well into its fall off season, but the roster is still taking shape. The Owls hired Kat Renone to the coaching staff as the newest assistant. The Newtown native specializes on the defensive side of the ball.
I think for me, I'm from Philly, so it's really great to kind of make my way back east. Living out west was really fun, but having the opportunity to work with Bonnie came up on my radar, and it's a really hard opportunity to turn down.
Renone played her college ball at Penn State and made her coaching debut at LaSalle before taking a job at Oregon.
I think Kat has a passion for the game, and she loves coaching. She has that underdog mentality of anything can happen if you put the work in. That's her experience as a player, and it's been her experience as a coach, and I think it's the X factor that makes her special.
But as Renone adjusts to her new home with the Owls, the players must also adjust to their new coach.
I have really interesting coaching cues. I say things like, don't be grapes to ball, go in the green space, and things like that. So today I think I said to Taylor, don't smell the attacker's bubble gum, meaning don't be too close to her. Yeah, I think every team has their own little type of dynamics that you kind of have to learn, and the athlete themselves is super important. And I think trying to navigate 34 different personalities is always challenging when you have a bigger roster.
Oregon ranked 16th in the country in ground balls per game in Renone's first year with the Ducks. She'll look to replicate her immediate impact on North Broad this fall. Kat will face LaSalle here at the Temple Sports Complex on October 6th, and perhaps see some familiar faces as well. Reporting live from the Temple Sports Complex, I'm Eva Cheeseman. I'll send it back to you guys on the desk.
Thanks, Ava. Although the focus is on fall sports, basketball season is less than 2 months away. OwlSports Updates' Jackson Batchler is back from his time talking football to talk some hoops from the studio set. Hey, Jackson.
Thanks, guys. The schedules for both teams were announced on Friday. And for the men and women, the American Athletic Conference has added new teams such as Rice, North Texas, Charlotte, UTSA, UAB, and 2023 Final Four squad Florida Atlantic. With 6 new opponents this season, there are plenty of new names on Temple's 18-game conference schedule. The Owls begin conference play with a road matchup against USF on January 4th. Temple's first AAC opponent at home is Wichita State on the 7th. 3 days later, the Owls host East Carolina on the 13th. And the team travels south then to face North Texas. 3 days later, they will stay in Texas to take on SMU. After the road trip, the Owls will host Rice on the 20th, as well as USF on the 24th. Their final game will be on March 10th at UTSA. As for the women's team, Temple begins its 18-game conference schedule on December 30th when they host UTSA. On January 2nd, the Owls will face North Texas at the Leah Corus Center. 4 days later, Temple will go on a road trip as it plays Tulsa on the 6th, followed by Wichita State on the 9th. On the 14th, the Owls return to North Broad as Memphis comes to town. A week later, Temple hosts Charlotte. The women's team closes out the season on March 6th with a home matchup against FAU. Even though the season does not begin until November, tickets will go on sale this Tuesday, October 3rd. Reporting from the studio set, I'm Jackson Batchler. Back to you guys on desk.
As we mentioned earlier, Temple football has only 5 days this week to prep for the first American Conference game this season.
Patty and I took this week to look at football's shortened practice schedule and to see how the team works in this expedited week.
This week we attended Coach Drayton's Monday press conference to get his takeaway on the shortened schedule this week and how the team will improve from the Miami game. First point is get the team back to work early. The team practiced on Sunday and Monday after their Saturday game, and Coach emphasized the importance of getting back into a routine, even mentioning an extra practice on the day before travel or even the day of their travel to Oklahoma for that Tulsa game.
Moving on to the next, on Monday, Coach said that neither team can use this shortened week as an excuse because they are in the exact same boat. It's an even playing field, and he also mentioned that these players are keeping up with repair, leaving that last game in the past and focusing on the future, which is vital for a short week for anyone.
And for the last part, working on the fundamentals. On their first practice back, the players took off the pads to work on some basic fundamentals and techniques. Hopefully these small adjustments that they make during practice can make a big impact on their performance Thursday night against Tulsa.
And speaking of fundamentals, here are 2 plays that show how football is really a game of inches and how one play here or there can really impact an entire game. We picked one offensive and one defensive to focus on from the Miami matchup. On offense, you can see that he is throwing off the back foot, but needs to be more grounded for those deeper passes. If the pass gets completed, Temple gets its first touchdown, cutting Miami's lead down way sooner.
And now to the other side of the ball. Miami makes a deep pass here. Colby Young jumps up, makes a great catch, and dives into the end zone. Tywan Francis right here, just a few steps away from getting in the way of that pass. If he's able to do that, they're able to shut down a scoring opportunity for Miami. That play is on 3rd and 4. A stop there means a field goal instead of the second of 2 early touchdowns in the first quarter. That is all for this first edition of Teamwork. We'll be back again in 2 weeks' time to give a breakdown of another team on campus.
It's time for our final break. When we get back, we will take a look at a squad that shines bright like a diamond.
Got the play on words? See you in 90 seconds.
Welcome back. The Diamond Gems dance team is one of Temple's 2 spirit squads on campus. They are always front and center at football and basketball games, not only cheering for Temple's top teams, but when fans aren't looking, they're busy preparing for a national competition. The team on the field isn't the only one prepping for game time each week. The Diamond Gems dance team is the game's prime entertainment when the game is on pause, even though they're not there for wins and losses.
Dance is kind of like an underrated sport. People don't really see it as a sport, but the athleticism that really goes into what we do is a lot.
The athleticism in dancers takes hours to master, with 5 practices per week. It is a sport that involves great amounts of strength and mobility, something that builds over many years. The team is diverse in technique, but hip-hop is the strongest style across the board.
Each individual on the team has their own strong suit. There's some technicians that are crazy technical. And then you have some of the best hip hop dancers you'll probably ever meet.
Every year, the team looks forward to the College Cheer and Dance Team National Championships held at Walt Disney in January. Preparation overlaps with the football and basketball seasons.
National season is our biggest part of our year. Even though we prepare for everybody else's season, we're also hinting at our own, throwing in some nationals, choreos days.
The squad that puts in up to 8 hours of work per day is always the most energetic in the room, supporting every team one dance at a time.
We are every single sports team's biggest fan. We're there for you, and we're there to support you through your wins and losses.
The squad is looking to make program history yet again after they finished in the top 5 for the first time last year at Nationals.
Let's go, Temple!
Here's what this weekend looks like for Temple Athletics. On Friday, men's soccer faces Charlotte away at 7 p.m. Field hockey takes on number 9 in the nation Liberty at the Temple Sports Complex at 1, and volleyball plays conference rival Tulane at McGonigal Hall at 6 p.m. On Saturday, both men's and women's cross country will take place in the Paul Short Run in Bethlehem, PA. To close out the weekend for Temple Sports, men's tennis will also head to Oklahoma to play Tulsa, and field hockey heads over the Delaware River to face Monmouth at 12.
We have plenty of shows throughout the week to keep you updated on the latest in Temple sports. On Monday, the Sports Brief on socials. Tuesday is Inside the Nest at noon. And 1 week from today, Michael Merville and Danny Podolsky are back on the desk. Our Tuesday and Thursday shows can be found on socials in addition to live on TUTV. That's all the time we have left for today. Again, follow us on social media at OwlSports Update for all things Temple football. And it's game versus Tulsa that will include post-game comments from Stan Drayton.
For our entire crew, she's Natalie Koranda. I'm Paddy Heckard. Thank you for joining us and have a great weekend.